Hello, this is an update video for my GA 205 class, in other words, tank game class. So if we go right in, I just had to make a quick edit before I could continue playing because something wasn't working properly. I basically just forgot to add the UAT tank into the player controller as its prefab. So as you can see, the shooting button's working. You can also see opposite side if I spam them. The projectiles will eventually go away. They last, I'm pretty sure, 2 seconds is the current lifespan. And then if I press A, you get rotate counterclockwise, which happened 58 times even though I barely pressed it. W, move forward. D, rotate clockwise. And S is move backwards. Space, of course, is our shooting button, though that could easily be assigned to any button, including Q, which could be slightly more logical, but we're never going to get a jump button in this game, so at least I would assume a tank's not going to jump. Furthermore, we can kind of look into the code. I believe most of, if not all, the scripts are open in Visual Studio. Well, let's go ahead and go to Game Manager, but Game Manager is, of course, a simpleton, so has some functions available to Rare if any other thing exists. Basically, if it loads in and there's another one, it will destroy one of them, basically destroying the new one, so the old one currently exists and keeps its data as you go through levels. If we start at pawn, just kind of wanted to look at things before we go to the things that are children of them. You see here we got the move speed, we have some summaries for those, we got some virtual starts, public virtual update, bunch of voids to add the move forward, move backward, rotate clockwise, rotate counterclockwise, and shoot functions, which are for the tank pawn to basically fill in with information. So it's a pawn of it's a pawn of a pawn, which is a weird way to phrase that. But Tank Pawn has all these different floats for Fire Force, Shell Prefab, Damage Done, Lifespan, Tank Shooter. This is basically where you pick what your bullet you're shooting is. If we move down, we say get component Tank Shooter. And then it basically currently has a bunch of debugs for moving forward, moving backwards, rotate clockwise, rotate counterclockwise, just to tell you those buttons are working. And then we have also this, which is the main thing. Shooter gets the shell prefab. You assign the damage. You assign the fire force, which is how fast it shoots, and shell lifespan, which is just how long the shell lives for on its own if it doesn't hit anything. We can probably just skip controller for now. Come back to it. Let's just finish up with shooter stuff. So shooter is a parent class that we have a child of. Void start, void whatever, void update, public, abstract void, shoot, game object has this very similar things to what the tank pawn saw for shoot. So this is basically where it's pulling shoot from, and then it will just assign things to them. Lifespan is being assigned elsewhere as shell lifespan. And then tank shooter is a child of shooter. And basically all it's doing besides its public overrides is it also has a little bit of a transform fire point, which is where the bullet appears at, and we just basically added that to the prefab of the tank, moved it to an appropriate place, and I got it to work. And here we actually have quite a bit more than what it seems because these are regions that have been closed for simplicity's sake. But instantiates it, damage on hit, component. If it has one, does all this, gets the component for the pawn. So basically what this region does is it just modifies the damage on hit component. And then this next region, if I find the right place, ooh, I'm about to sneeze. Oh, I am dying. That's besides the point. So it launches the rigid body forward. This probably being the shell. Boom, adds rigid body, transform, force forward, end of region. Destroy new shell on lifespan, or if it hits anything, that kind of stuff. Destroy. This is where it destroys after a set time. Damage on hit. This is where the game just destroys it automatically if it hits anything. Basically, otherwise this stuff is telling it, so this is the damage done, and it assigns it to the owner. If the object is to hit something that has the health component, it will take health away from it, and then no matter what, it will destroy itself. Oh, well, I didn't mean to pin hit, but I guess I pinned hit. Oh goodness, oh goodness. Health, where are you at, buddy? I didn't mean to pin you, buddy. I didn't mean to pin you either. Anywho, this has current health, which is private, public float for max health, And max health, yada yada yada, damage amount. This is some pretty cool summary parameter stuff that can basically spawn all this in, so you can give a summary of what the amount and source mean, basically where it was fired from, and the amount of damage that was received. Public void for the float amount and pawn source, so it gets current health minus the amount. Then it clamps it between 0 and max health. Source of I added some periods because I realized as I was going through the code they didn't have them, so whoa, my mouse flew away. So math, yada yada. Source name plus did plus amount damage to whatever object it hit, period. If current health equals less than 0, die. And then that would bring us to the public void die, which would have source name plus killed game object, period. And then you destroy that game object. We've looked at a lot of this stuff. We still basically have, I think we looked through Game Manager already. Yeah, we looked through Game Manager already. You have a lot of cool stuff in here with spawning the player. Maybe we didn't. Maybe we didn't. Let's just say we didn't. Public static game instance. No, we talked about how this would destroy other ones upon an end, but we didn't really talk about this public void at the end where it spawns player. Public void start spawn player. This is the spawn player thing where it spawns them at 000 because we initiate vector 3.0 quaternion identity, player controller prefab, a lot of stuff where we kind of had to input certain prefabs into. And I believe that all that leaves us is controller and possibly player controller unless we already went over them. But this is a parent that's relying very heavily on its child to basically do a lot of stuff. But it seems like we already talked about this. So we are all good. Tank boom 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 boom. Not much else to talk about from that thing. Oh, we do have some controller stuff, but we did already talk about those. Scenes, just main sample scene. Prefab, player controller. I forgot to do this initially, so I had to do this before I restarted the video. UAT pawn tank, just drag that prefab into there. W is forward, backwards, clockwise, counterclockwise, shoot key. Projectile doesn't have too much going for it, basically just has a sphere with its rigid body, collider, damage on hit, damage done. We might want to amp that up at some point. Owner, currently none. I might have to add the UAT tank into that, though maybe it assigns its own user. I forgot what the code does exactly. And then, of course, we have UAT tank, which we can kind of just double click because it has a lot of cool stuff going on for it. It has its own rigid body, obviously, box collider, which we set up. Tank shooter, which we had to put the fire point transform into. Basically, fire point is this little thing that we went forward here. Basically, we grabbed the projectile, moved it there, and then deleted everything on it except for its transform. Then again, everything has to have a transform, so I don't think you can even delete transform. But this basically has script for tank pawn, move speed, turn speed, shell prefab, which you have to drag the projectile into, whatever projectile you want to use. Fire force, currently at 1,000, damage done 10, shell lifespan 2. And that is where the game is at. Let me see if I can scroll through the checklist, see if anything else is needed. Tank exists, yep, test environment there. Uh, Game Manager Simpleton, yep. Game Manager up to date lists. It does have a list of players. Let me just see if I can point that out more directly because I don't think I really mentioned it too great. Yeah, public list player controllers. Public player controllers should have something where it just basically adds to it. Game instance add if it does on start, and then if the thing is destroyed, it will remove itself from the list. Inheritance, we do have a lot of controllers inheriting from their parents and whatnot. Player controller, tank pawn, tank shooter, all those are inheriting. Player controllers inheriting from controller. Player input, yep, we show that all the inputs are working from the key code. Movement, rotate are separate move components. Yep. All those things are separate and function, although we don't have them actually moving the tank yet. All tank related components accessible from tank pawn. Yes, they are. Move speed variables exposed for designer. Yep, move speed and rotate speed are very much visible. No syntax errors or warnings. I don't think we had any. Nope, no errors, no warnings. And then comments, we could definitely add some more comments on some of these variables, as we do have a lot kind of just towards the top that we didn't really comment on, like damage done, owner, but you could really argue that a lot of those are self-explanatory. And then project organization, yes, things are organized, things are in the right folder. I remember having to move the projectile prefab because I think we created it somehow for some reason it began in script. I think I just dragged it over initially from the scene to script, and then eventually had to move it over to prefabs. Additional features, nothing really additional, but we do have everything working fully, and that is where the project is at currently.